All right, welcome everybody to the NBFL playoffs. We're in season 36, and we are here tonight, currently, at the AFC Championship game between the number one seed Miami Corona Blights and the number two seed, if I recall, Houston Treants. It's been a long playoff so far. We've had a lot of just slowly played games. Various reasons, coaches busy with stuff, real life. So, AFC Championship game finally getting played. Winner will advance to the Super Bowl, and we already know that from the NFC side of the bracket that the mighty Green Banana Grabbers, coached by Gru, will be waiting them. So, Relazite with his Rats, Bazakstein with his Wood Elves. Only one can advance. We've got, what's the TV difference here? Not too much, only 170k. Skaven have been pretty light all season. They're also missing a very solid gutter runner, but certainly not the most important one. He's got three others that are, Troy Smith is just disgusting. Blodge, Agility 6, two heads, sidestep, sure hands. Basically, if there's a ball on the ground within 11 squares, the odds of Troy Smith getting it are extremely high. The other two gutter runners are both movement 10, both with sprint, both with sure feet. One also has sidestep. And there's a strength 4 blitzer. And there's another strength 4 blitzer with agility 5. So this is about as disgusting a rat team, and we use that term endearingly, of course, as you will ever find. To counter them, Baz has, well, that's not a great start for the Rats. Double sculling in the first block. Baz has Stan Jones, Strength 4, Agility 5, Ward Answer, Tackle, Strip Ball, Sidestep. Obviously key to the team. His partner with David Johnson, Mighty Below, Tackle, Sidestep, solid. Veronica Surehands, the player that Baz traded up to at number 18 or so to get. Plus Agility, Block, Guard, Sidestep. Probably the only real decent catcher he has left. There's a Blodge Step up there. There's a Raj down there. So yeah, it's not a super deep team. He's got the pieces, but we'll see if he can put them in the right spot and use them correctly, because no one has found a way to beat Rel this season. He is, or was 7-7-0 in the regular season. Won his only playoff game so far, as he was the number one seed. So he got to sit around during the wild card round, watch everyone else beat each other up. Troy Smith with the ball. Rats with one inducement, that's the Wizard. Rats had 5 rerolls. What else have 4? Neither team, I think, even has a dirty player on the roster. I could be wrong. Baz is not much of a fouler. Rel, from what I've seen, not much either, but doesn't look like we'll have many, if any, at all today. These two coaches, as good as they are, they play a very different style of Blood Bowl than you would expect a typical Skaven Wood Elf game to be if you found just a random ranked game, for example, if the site still even has those, as we're all kind of waiting for 2020. But if you found like 1800, 2000 level Skaven Wood Elves, you would expect some sort of like 3 to 4 kind of game. That's not the style of these two teams. Baz, if he's not scoring on turn 8, is mad at himself most of the time. He runs his Baz Dakistine offense that we'll see later that literally uses the whole pitch. There's a nice knockout on the blitz by Greg Yalms. And Rel clearly is content to sit back there with the ball for a little bit too until he needs to make his move. As far as the AFC side of the bracket goes, Miami was the 1 seed. I'm pretty sure Houston was the 2 seed. Houston had it was a fun opening game for them against Denver. Fun from our point of view, from the fans, however. Houston winning that 3-2 in overtime against Denver and the Lizards from Jamon. The Chaos matchup, the mirror match between the Rex and Bedlam, ended up going to Malcord 2-1. And another counter knockout on a random Skaven Lino. Good play there. Evens up the numbers. There was a fantastic match between the Dolts and the Sinners. 2-1. Norse ended up winning that game. So, Dolts as the lowest seed remaining advanced to face Miami, and that was an interesting game, if I recall. It's been at least a week at this point, but that was 2-1 result for Miami. I think it was a very bloody game, if I recall. Now that I remember, the Norse just got absolutely beat to shit. On the other side of the bracket, Houston did what they needed to do, beat Captain Malcor in Cleveland 2-1. Wood Elves getting by the Chaos. Now Wood Elves Rats meet for the AFC crown. Opposite side of the bracket, we've got Green Banana, the 1 seed. They had a bye in the first round, leaving well, there's no real nice way to say this, but a huge upset or letdown or just a shocking development when number 2 seed Atlato fell to number 7 seed Dallas Crowbar. And Dwarves, they're not an easy team in this league. OTS is a pretty solid coach, and he just he did what he needed to do and took out old Nelphine and advanced through the wild card. Croaks and Glams actually went to overtime and then all the way through overtime with no score. So the 1-1 result ended up going to a coin toss. Glams won that, so they advanced. Cattle, meanwhile, won the battle of the Bash teams, beating Destroy 2-0. So Cattle and Los Angeles met for a third time this season. The division rivals have quite a long history of playing each other. Stim and Menno, both good coaches, and they play each other a ton, and it's gone back and forth. But this time, Stim came out on top 2-0. High Elves advanced, and on the other side, Gru just sat there as the 1 seed and let the number 7 seed pull off the upset and then meet him in the divisional round. And then, while OTS had some opportunities in that game, it just didn't quite come together. So Green Banana won 2-0. Setting up Gru and Stim in the NFC Championship game, and we weren't able to provide coverage of that one, but it was a heck of a game. Gru ends up winning 2-0, so he advanced to the Super Bowl, waiting on the winner of this game. So Gru is the 1 seed. Certainly got fortunate that the 7 seed advanced, so he gets the lowest seed remaining for his first opponent. So in theory, that's a relatively easy matchup. Won that one. But when you get Stim as your next opponent in the playoffs, that's not an easy matchup. So certainly worthy of being a Super Bowl contender and perhaps walking away with a trophy for the Apes. One random Skaven line rat just kind of finds himself all alone on this side of the field. He's got this nice little logo to look at. He's got some elves kind of giving him the stink eye, but Baz isn't too overly concerned about ye old line rat downfield, so probably going to let him go. We'll get a double stack at the bottom, perhaps. Baz going to be careful with this spacing here. Probably going to blitz some other unfortunate line rat. Earl Gallagher. Going to get the mallet, perhaps. But nothing too dangerous. Ten players apiece on both sides still. This is where Rel starts to make his decisions. Does he want to veer north? Does he want to huddle up somewhere? Does he want to spread out? Does he want to try to send somebody through a gap? Stan Jones, though, making his presence felt. Now he's on the rat side of the field, pretty much in the middle of the field. He can get to wherever he needs to go. And Mr. Troy Smith does have sure hands to negate strip ball, but when you're strength 4, agility 5 tackle, if you want to get to Troy Smith, by golly, you're going to make it there most of the time. If you're Rel, you do have a nice 3-die blitz here, potentially. Greg Yalms trying to blitz the catcher. You've got your assists, so strength 4, strength 2 plus assist is 5-2. You get a 3-die with tackle and mighty blow. Won't gain you a whole lot, but at this point, both teams are just posturing. So if you're going to blitz somebody and they're all AV7, might as well take a 3-die. And that, I've always assumed that third dice on the right is the extra one you would roll, and so there you get rewarded for setting up the 3-die. At least that's how I'm going to look at it. So it gets a stun on his blitz, tags another catcher. Both teams with just one mighty blow player piece, so I imagine they'll be the ones blitzing pretty much the entire game, but looks like Rel going for some contact here. He's tired of waiting around. He's gonna force the issue, perhaps. Just take a quick look at the regular season. In the second half of the season, for example, the Houston Treants had all of 2 casualties caused in 7 games, so oh, Rel's kind of going for it. And didn't quite make it. Interesting. Alright, decided to not want to try to protect the ball from Stan Jones perhaps anymore, and made a break for the end zone and tripped on the way. This is how a lot of gutter runners seem to go. It's not the, mighty blow blitzer or, some foul or anything else. It's the old end zone line that gets you tripped up and you sploosh yourself. That's usually how the good ones go. Alright, how many players can Baz get back there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So he's got 2 within range to pick up the ball. 1's agility 5. Not that that really matters on 2+ pickup. And then I assume you're going to throw to somebody right around here in your logo, so probably don't need the extra agility. Stan Jones going for a blitz early. Nope. Decided just to move. Going for blitz with mighty blow on David Johnson instead. Gets a stun. Mark the ball with tackle. Set up another dude or 2 over here. You kind of got a screen going. Pick up the ball. Throw to Stan Jones. Nope. Just gonna keep it in Scarlett's hands. Which makes sense. I mean, gutter runners next to him, and while Mr. Oh, double skulls. Mr. Sawo from TCU could, I suppose, negative 2-die blitz. He does have block, but otherwise I don't think you're getting that ball back. At least this turn. Granted, there's that wizard in the back pocket, and you hate to use it early, especially on a drive that was supposed to be Oh my god, that was a foul by Baz Akestein? Who is this man and what has he done with the real Baz? Alright, well, don't think the wizard will be used in that case. Now he's got old Veronica Surehands in scoring range, screened off nicely. Probably don't need to get the ball to her. I'm assuming it's to her. It's a Amazon draftee from the NCBB. Don't need to get the ball to this catcher next turn if you don't have to. We'll see how Rail decides to play this. Would have been interesting to see if he would have made the decision to fireball or zap. I guess he'd probably go for the fireball, especially with this formation. Had the foul not occurred or gotten a stun. Hasn't used his blitz yet, so probably going to go blitz on Martin, and then you tag Veronica. Just make it harder for Baz to score next turn. Not that he probably wants to. He just wants to force Rel to guard against it. I suppose the one quibble I have with Rel's roster, and not that I know that much about playing Skaven, nor am I nearly as good as Rel, and it's just kind of how the draft broke a couple times. Troy Smith, when a double agility falls to you, you take it. Blitz here on Surehands by Mr. Yalms. The double GFI too, wow. That's why I didn't see it earlier. Potentially a good knockout. Probably not worth using the Apothecary on. But, you know, when Sewu follows you at pick number 17, I think it was, and Troy Smith was like pick number 6 the year before. Mr. Meyer was your X-Pan draft when you originally joined. And Yalms is a homegrown player. And then your other gutter runner who's missing was also drafty. So it obviously depends what falls to you in the draft, but there's no real defensive gutter runner. Like, there's no sacking gutter with, like, wrestle, horns, two heads, or leap, or any of that fun stuff. David Johnson going for the long distance blitz on Troy Smith, but nothing going. So it's not that Rel's team is like a one-trick pony. He's certainly got some pieces, but you don't have that sacking threat that usually you see from a gutter runner or two. Interesting. So Rel's vacated this portion of the field. Baz is looking to exploit that, perhaps. Stan Jones will probably end up here on column 7. You don't want to be on column 8 because that invites the fireball. Not that this isn't fireballable, if that makes sense. You fireball these two, run over here with Troy Smith, pick it up, throw it to Sewu in the end zone, and you live long and you prosper. Although with both gutters marked by tackle, maybe a little bit tougher. Good spacing by Baz. lets that one go. Alright, we'll see what Rel decides to do. Gonna eventually have to make a decision whether to use the wizard or force Baz to score by going for the ball, because you can't cover all these scoring threats for 3 straight turns, 4 straight turns. Aaron Glenn, blood step right near the end zone. This catcher would have had a free path till you marked him. Still an agility 5 player with the ball. And while it is a bit of a shame to have Stan Jones kind of be on marking duty in the back here, you're also keeping him away from the strength 4 tackle and the strength 4 tackle mighty blow. Where's he, the Storm Vermin? Oh, there he is, just missed him. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Interesting that you're marking Mr. Jones there. So where is this blitz going? Is he just going to hit the war dancer? Is he going to try to blitz the screener, tag the ball? I mean, we are agility 5. If we want, we can go straight for the ball. And here it is. Has to use a reroll, but gets it down. This scatter plus possible throw-in could be big. You still have Troy Smith to move. Wow, right to Sawo on the ground. Well, he is marked by tackle, so what are the odds that he rolls a 1 on this dodge? Or pickup. Nope. I don't think you can mess around and not score. Yeah. Alright. Royal walks into the end zone. Gets a fortunate crowd scatter. Now the Wood Elves have 4 turns, potentially equalize before the half. We've got 1 player out on both sides still, taking a little nap, but nothing serious so far. Alright, so not exactly how you draw up the drive for the Rats. They made him break for the end zone. Tripped, of course, Snakes on a GFI. Wood Elves pick up the ball. Skaven able to make a play, push it into the crowd. Crowd gives them a favorable toss, and you pick it up and you scamper in. So 1-0 for the Corona Blights. But considering Baz has only used 1 reroll and Rails used 2, plenty of time. Couldn't bait out the wizard, unfortunately, but otherwise you're probably not too bothered if you're Baz. I mean, you're playing against Rats and you're playing against Rel. You're probably not going to stop him from scoring. It's just the nature of how this game's going to go. Skaven also don't have a kicker, not that it's super pertinent in this matchup. Okay, we get a pitch invasion. Pretty even. Exactly even. 3 on both sides, although the thrower who you, in theory, want to pick up with is one of the ones affected, but fortunately, 2 catchers at the top were taken down, but ball goes to the south, so there's not like a huge gap if something happens right to the ball. Ouch, Rel. Alright, clutch pickup by Mr. Scarlet. I mean, Rel's exactly right. Most people who are watching, I assume, are in the league. And as much as we want to get out there and be in the playoffs still, we were able to get a crowd scatter, and then we invade the field for a little bit, but eventually we got to go back to our seats and wait to see what happens. But I don't think Rel needed to, like, verbally point that out. I think that was just uncalled for. I think if we're Rel, we're eyeing Mr. David Johnson here for a blitz with our Mighty Blow Storm Vermin. Big stun. We're all going for some aggressive marking here. I suppose when the players you're marking are strength 2, it's not too worrisome. Certainly is leaving this part of the field open, but knowing that it's two, I mean, basically rookie elf linemen. I mean, they're still agility 4, but you're not super worried about them just going down and scoring when you've got 4 players here coming back. Aggressive reroll by Baz, but sets up a 3-die on Mr. Mason. Can't scratch his armor though, but gets Mr. Jones downfield. Looks to have him screened off a little bit. Are we going to get the handoff? Doesn't look like it. Could have been a bit risky with no reroll, but decides to go backwards. Keeps a player. I think you want to move him 1 square forward. Nope, he's going to put him 1 square back. Brings a catcher back. And another. Okay. I suppose my quibble about them being too close together for a firewall doesn't matter a whole lot this turn, because you've got line rats and just line rats within range, so as fast as these gutters are, I don't think they can get there. So now we've got Mr. Jones screened off. You've got your other 3 catchers spread out here, so next turn they've got, what, 8 movements? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Puts them on column 10, so they'll be within range. We'll see what Rel decides to do. He's going to have to pick and choose what he's going to mark here, what he's going to blitz. Marks all catchers, which is actually impactful because they're going to have to likely dodge backwards and not potentially not be within range. For example, Veronica here. I mean, she can dodge forward with agility 5, but just for the sake of the argument, you go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you'd have to GFI just to be within range next turn. Rail smartly getting a gutter runner of his within range. And could see a foul here potentially. I've already got 2 assists on Mr. Johnson if you want to drop the boot with Mr. Gao. I don't think you're dropping it with Storm Vermin or Gutter Runner, so. But yeah, having Troy Smith within scoring range on the final turn is going to be nice. Plus, he's in the middle, so if the ball does get fumbled or dropped, or there's a wizard opportunity, he's certainly able to pounce. Putting a guy back as a safety is nice. Who do we want to blitz? Guess it's Glenn. Good knockout. Do we dare GFI and tag Mr. Jones? We do. And we get a foul, but it's only a stun. But still big. Can't use Johnson to free yourself this turn, so what's our best option? We can probably get some of these catchers within scoring range. But can we do that? Protect the ball from a wizard / Troy Smith. And, you know, free up Stan or somebody else. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Going for a pass action. Interesting. Are we getting the ball to Veronica? Because I want to get Veronica moving forward so we can dodge through with agility 5 dodge safely. Relatively. But then I want to put her on column 11 so she's within range next turn. But we can't do that without dodging through tackle once. Gets a block here, but can't knock down the sidestepper. Tough decisions here for Baz. How do you get people within scoring range? You want at least 2. 3 is much more ideal. But also protect the ball. So we're going to blitz through with Stan here, which that does not help. Alright, that's technically 2 within range currently. Not that there's like a great place to go with the ball here. But man, this is it's tough. Oof. Trips on the dodge, so we've got 2 players in scoring range. Ball screened off. If you wizard, you've only got line rats in scoring range, so it looks like Rel's not going to try. I mean, this is pretty simple here. You can set up a 2-die with Sewo to knock down Martin, and then you blitz Johnson at the top, and those are the 2 scoring threats down, and you're good. Alright, there's our second knockdown, so unless I'm just missing something, it does not seem like we have any Wood Elves in scoring range. And we've we've got just enough rats here to get a 2-die on Mr. Stan Jones as well. This defense going very well for Rel in Miami. Stun on Jones. We'll see if Rel decides to drop a foul. Well, decides to foul Johnson, which isn't bad, but only gets a stun as well. So, what else? Fortunate to still have their ward answers for the second half, perhaps. Get Troy Smith out of there so he can't be blitzed, and yep, Rel's done exactly what he needed to do on defense, and he's going to take a 1-0 lead into the half. Looks like we're going to surf here. Not an important rat, but probably the only thing you can do on this turn of any relevance. So 12 rats, 15 elves still. It's a relatively deep roster for this time of year. 0-1. Houston gets the ball down and still facing a wizard. But I suppose old overtime could come into play, as it has quite often in the playoffs. I think if there were 6 wildcard games, five of the first 6 wildcard games went to overtime, if I recall. Looks like Dash won't be able to stick around. And yeah, if like he says, like, if you're Rel, you are very happy with this position. You're up, you still have the wizard, and you haven't lost really any players. You've got one guy KO'd still, but that's it. The gutter runners have been relatively secure. I think they've got blitzed twice to no avail. One got fouled into a stun, but that's about it. And now both teams, neither one has a dirty player, and neither coach fouls a ton, especially with the current races they're using. Both teams have a bribe, so we'll see how that goes. Because both teams have actually dropped a boot or two so far. Early blitz by Johnson. Perhaps he can go downfield. And Rel bounces from the game real quick. Might have a connection issue, but I imagine he'll be back soon. Alright, we've got the ball safely picked up. We've got some distance between us and the rats, but distance that can be covered pretty quickly when you have 2 movement 10 sprint sure feet gutters. Alright, now you're almost out of range. Spacing by the elves is pretty solid. Johnson's kind of left out to dry, but Rel's not really going to be able to cover everything effectively. I guess the one quibble I have is that there's no catcher back near the middle of the field to be the recipient of your pass. You assume the average elf will catch the ball reliably, but having that catch reroll is pretty handy. We're now waiting on Rel to return to the game. Oh, there he is. Probably take inventory of what happened when he was gone and then make his move. Wow, there was a hockey game tonight in a semifinal that was 8-0. So poor Appajar's Islanders got taken to the woodshed. And Mr. Johnson got taken to the KO box. Not quite the same, but he's out for now. We'll see if Rel can make a double column or something else here. If you give up too much space, I was going to say Baz can use Stan Jones and work the middle of the field for a little bit, but we'll see. That wizard in the back pocket's just really tough to deal with. Against Skaven, you can't leave the ball carrier back there by himself because you'll get a zap, and then a gutter runner from literally halfway across the field will get over there and give him a bonk on the head and take the ball and walk in. Can't try to cage your way downfield. Getting an early blitz here. Looks like we might be going to sure hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 double GFIs. Not exactly what we want, but good decision to mark the gutter runner with tackle. I mean, it may not matter, but any small... Oh, he's not giving it to sure hands. He's going for Glenn. Oh, has to use a reroll, but gets into the end zone. So now it is 1-1. Houston's tied it up just after halftime, I suppose. Didn't want to use that reroll. Obviously, you've only got 4, and overtime uses any rerolls you have left. So it's gonna have to be real conservative with them the next 6 turns or so. In theory, I mean, you could use them and make a game-changing play and try to win it all in regulation. But when your opponent's Skaven and they get the ball last going into turn 16, the one turn's pretty likely. I mean, maybe pretty likely is not accurate. I don't know what the exact math is when you have a natural one-turner, but it's much better than most teams have. Both teams still have one player knocked out, but unfortunately for Houston, David Johnson, their other war dancer, and their only mighty blow, and another sidestep, and a tackler, he's still staying out. So Stan Jones and the boys, we'll see what they have. Miami with 11 rats on the field, 1 wizard, 5 rerolls. Looked to be in a pretty good position, though. Alright. Both teams actually getting an extra reroll, which is pretty massive. It feels like the difference between 3 and 4 at this stage of the game is just incredible. So Houston getting a little extra help there, but 6 rerolls is more than enough, you would think, for 7 turns of regulation and any part of overtime. Rel getting some pushes on a couple blocks, including his blitz. Screens off his best Storm Vermin. One thing you can definitely appreciate about watching a game like this where the coaches are so good is the spacing is almost always on point. You'll see here the flanks, everyone's 2 squares apart. And now you chain push your blitzer back behind your line potentially to keep him pretty safe. So it's very nicely done. So that deserves a little clap. Troy Smith from Ohio, so that's Jeffro's old team. The drunk guys. That's right. It was a Norse team with a lot of interesting player icons. Troy Smith, of course, named after probably my favorite college player of all time. I grew up watching college football and watching Ohio State since I lived in Ohio at the time as a kid, and Troy Smith in 2004, 5, 6, 7 kind of range was quite the player to watch. Beat Michigan 3 times, I believe. First guy to do that. Memory serves, ended up winning the Heisman in 06. And they made the championship game, but unfortunately kind of laid an egg against Florida. But back then when the system was still the BCS, you had 2 teams that were voted on to play in the championship game, and a lot of conferences didn't even have a conference championship at the time. The SEC did, and so Florida, who won their conference, got a boost, and got a spot in the title game over a rematch potentially with Michigan. And Ohio State literally had, if I recall, 50 days in between their last game, which was against Michigan, and the championship game. And they kind of lost their edge. And despite literally returning the opening kickoff for a touchdown, couldn't do much else in the game. Ted Ginn was the one who ran it back and actually injured himself on the return, so he was out for the rest of the game. In Florida, led by Chris Leak, senior quarterback, and super sub freshman quarterback Tim Tebow. You may have heard of him. He came in for like short yardage packages and fun stuff like that. They just they whooped the old Buckeyes, but enjoyed watching Troy Smith a lot back in the day. All right, looks like Baz applying some pressure, getting 4 players into the backfield. Still has a pretty respectable screen here. Stan Jones ready to pounce if anyone tries to break through. Baz actually stepping away from the game for a moment. So apparently when you're a high-level coach in a big game, sometimes you just have to step away from the game for a minute. Literally just close the client and take a second to breathe, do some stretches, something. Going with a very deep cage here for the Rats. It's always fun how, say, 70 to 80% of the Blood Bowl races, if you're caging this far back in your own side of the field, something's going very wrong. But, teams like Elves and Rats, they play by different rules, so. If anything, it's quite an interesting strategy because the only tool Baz really I love that Rat Akestein defense. The only tool Baz has to get that ball would be Stan Jones at this point. But if you bring him forward, Rel can sneak some Rats through the crevices and get behind him. So, as good as Stan Jones is, and he's strength 4, agility 5, strip ball, tackle, all that good stuff, he can only be in so many places at once. And unfortunately, he can only move once per turn. Welcome, Dutch, to the party. Baz messaged me saying his client crashed, so he should be back soon. Yes, Dutch, you may have missed it earlier, but Baz actually did foul something. There was a gutter on the ground after he failed go for it to try to get into the end zone with the ball around turn 3 of the first half. And when there's a gutter runner on the ground and you literally had to go your max distance to pick up the ball on the ground next to him, and your opponent has a fireball, sometimes you gotta drop a boot. And neither team had a bribe at the time. They both do now, but it was an important tactical foul. It wasn't out, just for blood's sake. Blitz by Yalms, not getting much. Rel going for the surround on the 2 catchers. So, interesting strategy by Baz, putting both stacks of players together. It does force the Skaven to commit a lot to try to surround them, especially the 2 catchers who are, built-in dodge. So even marking them with tackle is like, basic Blood Bowl, but 2+, 2+, easy to get out. But now that you sandwiched him, you force a 3+, then a 2+, so. Sabo going all the way back to fill in the cage. Baz rejoining the game as well. This is really where having David Johnson knocked out is pivotal, because Stan Jones needs to come forward to get the ball, but then you don't really have a safety to stop anything that Rel does that gets past you, because you've got all of zero wrestle in this group of players. You've got no tackle on anyone besides Stan, so sometimes having a legion of basically rookie linos comes back to bite you. Good 3-die setup. Nice stun as well on Mr. Mason. The lesser of the two one-turning gutter runners, of course. But now you've kind of covered yourself a little bit. The gutter runner was really the only threat super close to able to break through to your backfield. And you've screened off Stan Jones on both sides. So now we just have to decide what to do with this setup here. Looks like he's going to try to set up 2-die. Gets away in a 2+ here, so all of a sudden things are looking pretty decent for the Wood Elves. You still are facing a wizard. You haven't forced Rel to use any rerolls, unfortunately, and he's got an extra one, so now he's up to 6. But now you're going to make him make some decisions here. He's got a gap he can squeak through and form another cage or a screen or something. He can go backwards if he wants to get a 3-die on Joseph. Yeah, squeak through. I did that on purpose. But you can't really go forward, at least easily. Stan Jones is lurking here like a shark in the water looking for an opportunity. And shout out to whoever did the Miami logo. It's very possible Rel just found that image somewhere and slapped the checkerboard at the top and bottom with the logo. And for God's sake, I hate the checkerboard design, but I guess when you're winning, you can do what you want. Oh, wow. Huge double pow on a Roger by a rookie line rat, but we'll see what Rel decides to do now. He still has his blitz. Agility 6, gutter runner with the ball. This is the one thing about missing a gutter runner for the game, as Rel is. You've only got 3. And when you've got one with the ball, another one back guarding his buttocks in your cage, and your other one's on the ground, you're kind of limited a little bit, actually, which seems weird. But you don't have a lot of options for moving the ball forward right now. So we'll see if he can find a good place to put it for another turn or two before he makes his move. Eight specs at this time of night, not bad. It's a shame that we can't have this game at a more pivotal viewing point. Blitz here by Yams. Oh, death. Pretty solid thrower too. Homegrown, but McCarron's days may be numbered. Nope. Apothecary rushes over and puts them back together, I suppose. What was I saying before this? I don't remember. Interesting that Rel chose to dodge there. You've got 2-die blocks set up on either player, but sometimes it's the block that you don't throw that turns out to be the best one. I know that's blasphemy to many coaches in this league and many coaches who play Blood Bowl in general. Getting a handoff here as well. Interesting. Handoff to Mr. Meyer. Strength 4. But doesn't have sure hands. So Stan's strip ball becomes more interesting. Granted, Troy Smith, even though he does have sure hands, is only strength 2, so it's hard to keep him away from Stan Jones in a 2-die block, or even a 1-die with tackle is not terrible. Well, guess we're going to find out if this is the turn Baz goes for it. There's no gutters in scoring range. Mason can get there next turn easily, so can Sewu up top, so mayhaps we have to strike while the iron's hot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You'd have to GFI, and you'd have to tag Earl somehow. Old Gallagher. And you do have Scarlet nearby with agility 5, technically within scoring range. Although Mr. Meyer is sidestepped, so the odds of Troy Smith still touching the ball or even catching it are pretty decent. I mean, Veronica's in a pretty good spot too if anything happens. Agility 5, sneak right through. Not a lot of tackle. There's just not a lot of tackle on either roster, really. You think of tackle as one of those key skills in Blood Bowl that you load up on pretty early, but these two rosters specifically only have 2 blitzer types, the 2 Storm Vermin, the 2 War Dancers, so most other players aren't going to be taking it. And despite the fact you have teams like the Jordals in Houston's division, High Elf team, just not a skill they need a whole lot of, apparently. And Wolves, you may be right. It's one of those weird times where it just feels like you need to go for it before the next turn happens. Because let's say you don't take the shot this turn. You just kind of play passive. The most likely outcome is that both of these gutter runners, Sewu and Mason, are free on opposite sides of the field next turn. So while they're not, he's taking the shot with Jones. Gets a POW. So who needs strip ball when you can just POW? Probably sidestep up. Oh, that's a huge injury. Oh, that's a terrible apothecary. And that's probably a good scatter. Clutch block there by Glenn. We'll see where Scarlet ends up. But I think Veronica is here to save the day. The draftee that was traded up for. Probably a good call getting Scarlet back as a safety. We'll see if Sure Hands can be the hero that Gotham needs. Or Houston. Somebody's in need of a hero. What's the best path over there? Well, we use dodge, so we have to use a reroll. But we get the touchdown. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's a different ball game. Houston with the 2-1 lead. They did have to use an apothecary and a reroll. Rel still has 6 rerolls, but no apothecary. Does still have a wizard. Both teams both having a bribe. Mr. Johnson deciding to stay knocked out, which is not ideal. Rel still has 11 rats, so man, this one's gonna be a nail biter, it looks like. I don't want to say the overtime coin toss is going to decide things, but it does seem to a lot of the time. Actually, I have a bit of a history with Veronica Sherhands, not as a NCBB player, but it's a player that I looked at very early when the draft board comes out, like 2 months ahead of the actual draft. And then I re-go through the board and re-go through my team at least 50 times, like literally between like when the board comes out and when the draft is. And then when the draft comes out, I'm constantly checking it because I also do the edits for marking out the players and putting them on the list of players that were taken. So I look at these players very, very, very frequently. And Veronica's one that I targeted early because it was the perfect replacement for one of my Frog Blitzers who has plus AG block and guard, but also minus AV. And I may have succinctly not given myself that player in my like mock draft leading up to the actual draft to throw people off the trail. And when the actual draft happened, Veronica fell exactly to me at pick number 18 or so. And then I had been in just, I mean, I discussed potential trades with many coaches, but I talked to Baz prior, and it was also a player that he was very keen on for obvious reasons. Turns out to be a very wise choice for him. Catchers made quite a few clutch plays, including that last touchdown in the AFC Championship game. And I decided to pull the trigger and make the trade because I just didn't feel like literally drafting the same player, just getting rid of the minus AV was that worth it. Oh my god, he got another reroll off the kickoff? Jesus. Those Miami fans, man, they're crazy. Handover action. Oh, there's no way. He's going for the one turn, and he gets it. Oh my goodness. Like, my first reaction is that's a mistake, but he has the wizard still. Wow. Okay. Yeah, back to my story. Just, I decided to make the trade and eventually drafted 3 players, 2 of which died or got permed, and the other has been fine and serviceable. But on the flip side of the trade, Veronica Sherhands has been an absolute gem for the Houston Treants, so glad to see that player doing well after I kind of targeted them for a long time. And no, Dutch, I would not likely see him one turn. I mean, he's got Wood Elves, and they're all Wood Elfy, but your movement 8 sprint, and I mean, Sherhands is sidestep as well. It's very doable. But I think it's much more likely that you can get a screen up top with 2 players and then 1 player behind it and send someone else on the opposite side of the field and still protect the ball. Because at this rate, neither team's like doing any damage. So you could probably pull off the screen here, screen up top, players down, even maybe a screen at the bottom. And Rel can't defend that with a wizard and everyone else. And that's a nice hit on the old Gallagher, getting hit with the old sledgehammer by David Johnson, who finally woke up. Also, perhaps a bit unwise for Rel to go for the score, giving Baz another shot at getting Johnson back, but we'll see. But yeah, I don't think at one turn. I think you're very comfortable 2 turning, even 3 turning if you need to, even against the wizard. Just because you're one of the few teams that can hold the ball in the backfield reliably and throw it and catch it and dodge away and do what you need to do to score. And then I guess Baz got a reroll on this other kickoff too, so apparently rerolls aplenty. Interesting that it looks like Baz is going for basically the offense I was just describing for, we talked about overtime. We've got a screen down here. We've got a player up here in scoring range. Another knockout. And then you're going to get a screen, and you're going to get Stan Jones with the ball. And I think, yeah, you have to burn that reroll, as much as you hate to. That's, like I said early in the game when we were going over the teams, if there is a ball on the ground within 11 squares of Troy Smith, the odds of him picking it up are pretty goddamn good. Agility 6, dodge, 2 heads, sure hands. It's crazy. Crazy. Alright, so if you're Rel, what do you do? I think you want Baz to score next turn, and that way you have 2 turns to score. You've got 7 rerolls, so you're not concerned about this game going into overtime and then not having any. You can keep the wizard. Since Stan has the ball, Zap is not really an option. I think it's a strength roll, so this would be, what, 50-50 with Stan Jones? It'd be, yeah, 50-50 Zap. If it was in a strength 3 player, it's a 3+, basically, and if it's a strength 2 player, it's a 2+, so. Yeah, Gark, I'm pretty sure it's strength-based. That's why it's very good against lizards, for example, because skinks are generally strength 2. And that's why in previous seasons when Baz was playing lizards and people would fireball him and he'd be furious, not only because of the result of the fireball. Don't get me wrong, he was never thrilled about that because they always worked. And speaking of the devil, we get a fireball, but it's a little impotent. It does scruff up the Houston logo, and that's just uncalled for, but it doesn't do the desired effect. Also, the fact that Rel is claiming that he's had poor luck with wizards and fireballs all season, despite the fact that he's undefeated, is a bit interesting. I heard one of Gark's wizard. But back to the what was I don't remember what I was saying. Oh right, lizards and Zap. He was mad because as good as God, what was that player? Bloodwind, the legendary player that was cut by Menno, got into the expansion draft, was taken by Baz, became the 2-time Offensive Player of the Year. As great as that player was, it was still a strength 2 skink. And so a Zap, which was like a 2+ roll against him, was in theory the better move, but people would always fireball it and the players around him. And it would always work that season. Like, every time, it would just crush Baz. Physically, mentally, and emotionally. Alright, so impotent wizard aside, we've got what's looking to be quite the finish here. 2-2, with 2 turns left, 4 rerolls, 7 rerolls, a bribe, and no apothecaries. Houston's got the ball in the hands of their best player. He's a little far away from the end zone, though, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if he moves at max range, nice knockout there. He's technically within range with 2 GFIs. But he's going for the handoff to Joseph. We get a block here. Oh, he's just going for the dodge. Gets the dodge. Gets the touchdown. Okay. Alright, remember how I said early on that both these teams play like conservatively and actually value ball control for agility teams, and it's like not going to be one of those 3-4 kind of games? Apparently I was wrong, because it's now 3-2. 2 turns left in regulation. Rel's going to get the ball. He's got 2 1-turners. Plus, you know, just another gutter runner who's agility 6. So Baz going with a pretty standard defense here, it looks like, assuming he shifts his line of scrimmage down. Yep. Puts the guard in the middle. Yeah, probably smart to put the catcher here instead of here, because easy. I mean, Rel's got like 3 strength 4 players, so he can create a gap if he wants to, but you might as well not put a strength 2 player there. So regardless, it still seems likely this is going to overtime, which is all we could ask for in a championship game. 2 good teams, Two great coaches, one great game, and one late night. Ward answers are separated on the two sides of the field, so you've got tackle on both, which is good. Likely to 3 more over one OTSs. I'm not going to say it's very high. There's a nice catch by Mr. Killjoy. Perhaps the first time he's ever been allowed to touch the ball, whether in practice or a game. I mean, it kind of looks like Roll's set up for a 1-turn, isn't he? He's going to block the line of scrimmage. He's going to get a 2-die blitz on either McCarron or Martin, and he's going to shoot Cebu or Mason right through the gap. I guess the question is, do you need to do this, or do you even want to do this? Because if you don't get this, this is your only player in scoring range. Granted, the way Baz is set up to where he's so far forward. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So he can kind of get to the end zone. Well, it is 3-3, and this game's not over. I keep talking about overtime like it's a certainty, but apparently, who knows? Who knows indeed? We've got 3 touchdowns today by the same Siwu Olaniwu? Olanilua? That's a toughie. Freshman always has just the strangest names on his players at TCU. Wait, did Real get an A3 roll somewhere along the way? What the hell? And Wintergreen, no, you're absolutely right. Having 8 rerolls, so you have one for every turn in overtime, is absolutely the only way to play. If there's nothing else you take away from this game, like the positioning, the timing of making your move, or using the skills available to you, like if you take nothing else away from this game, know that having at least 5 rerolls going into overtime is the move. So if you're Baz here, unless Rel gets a blitz, he can't win the game on this turn. So is Baz going to counter with a 1-turn? Or is he just going to try for overtime? He doesn't have to, per se. Although I suppose if you lose the kickoff in overtime... That's actually a very nice and timely rock there. Because now you can literally... Yeah, kicks pretty nice too. Handoff, 2+ with rerolls on both ends. Handoff to Veronica, please. Okay. But you can come right behind with Andre Johnson's. I wonder what his plan was earlier. Was he gonna leap over and okay, he was gonna do some stuff with Stan Jones, but he went that way. I just assumed he'd be going down, but you've got it set up this way as well. So you follow with Jones. No. It may not matter. You've got another player to fill in that gap. Block here. Another push is nice. Sidestep here. And Veronica is going to be... I don't think you need to throw this block. But if you do, can you make it a 3-die? Oh, he wanted the other square. Duh. And then your agility 5 not marked by tackles, so that's just a couple 2s, and then a couple more 2s, and we got ourselves a 4-3 game, which I swore was not going to be the case between these coaches at the start, but... Man, this game's got everything. Considering that it was literally 0-1 at halftime. And now we've got 1 turns, we had a defensive score, we had a wizard that failed spectacularly. I mean, this is wow. Oh, Dutch, it happened once. Literally just once. I think there's literally been 1 snake to my memory so far. That was, of course, Rel on turn 3 in the first half, going for the end zone on a breakaway with a gutter runner. Tripped on going from column 2 to column 1. Baz goes back, gets the ball, and a turn later, Rel blitzes through a screen with his agility 5 Storm Vermin. Knocks down the ball, it scatters like a third of the way across the field next to that same gutter runner who's on the ground, who sneaks away, picks it up, and scores. So just a tactical delay. Yeah, this is just one of those weird games where whatever the coaches want to do, it has gone right for them. And of course, Skaven and Wood Elves have a lot of built-in skills for catch, dodge. You've got block on the only players you're blitzing with for the most part. So everything you've wanted to do, you've been able to do. And there's a quick snap, so Jesus Christ. I think we just have to give the ball to Siwu. He's been money this game. He's already got all 3 of your touchdowns. I think the worst part is if you play this right as your Rel, you can actually push one of your gutters forward another square. And in my head for a second, for some reason, I was like, oh, that's a long way to go with the ball for Troy Smith. You got to run all the way up here, and then he's movement 9, agility 6. What am I worried about? I forgot. Like the fastest player in Blood Bowl, so it's fine. Alright, so Rel looking for opportunities here to chain Siwu forward, I suppose, just for the heck of it. You don't need to throw first here. You can easily knock Mr. Brown down. Yeah, so get the push here. Well, you take the POW. You push forward. You're literally needing just 1 GFI now, which is disgusting. Pass the ball. Oh. Wow, he just was barely outside that range for interception then. And yeah, agility 6. It's just disgusting. Dutch, who plays Tomb Kings, is like, man, I got one agility 4 player. I'm doing good. Alright, here we go. Does fail the initial dodge, but doesn't fail another. Baz Akestein calls heads, gets heads. Houston has the ball in overtime. 4-4. 5 rerolls for the Wood Elves. 8 rerolls for the Rats, and they only have 10 players apparently, as attrition has finally started to affect them a little bit. Wait, do they still have 11? Dutch, can you... Ugh. You made me look like a fool on air. There's 11 Rats for the record, so Rel's just fine. Doesn't have the wizard anymore. Does have a bribe, though, if he needs it. Yeah, man, Rel's ready to go. It may be almost 1 o'clock here, but it's probably like 1 o'clock p.m. over there in China. He's already like gotten up, taken a shower, had breakfast, had some coffee. He's ready to go. I mean, that man's going so fast. He's already halfway through January 22nd. You know, the only thing we haven't seen this game, we've seen almost everything. Like, we haven't seen a blitz yet. Nope, not quite. High kick. I mean, I'd almost consider giving it to one of the catchers. And indeed, Sure Hands comes back for it. I mean, you could have used the Tree Man, apparently, to catch that one. If you're going to roll a 6, I guess it doesn't matter. Not that Baz has a Tree Man anymore, because Gart's Tree Man decided to have some, like, tree-on-tree violence. I don't know what was said between the two. It was a discussion about, like, barks and oaks and whatever else, but as unlikely as an armor break as it was, that one tree turned the other one into kindling. It was nasty. Must have been fighting over the female tree. I'm not sure what you call that, so I don't know where I'm going with this joke. Tree male. Oh, God. Alright. Well, we gotta hand... We could have handed the ball off to another Tree Man if we needed to. We rolled another 6, so we're good. But Stan Jones has the ball now. Strength 4, agility 5, ward answer, and it's perhaps only a matter of time. Real doesn't have the wizard anymore. He does need to stop this. Would Quadre of catchers be correct, or is Quadre 4 just because of the root quad? I assume it's 4, so I guess this trifecta of catchers here. You've got to somehow stop all 3 from scoring when all 3 are in range. Wow. It's also why I've never been a fan of this setup. For Rats, it can make sense. I think in this situation where a sideline cage, it doesn't beat you per se, but it's very difficult. I think just automatically giving up on either side is not how I would play it. But again, Rel's much better at skating than I am. Hell, Rel's much better at probably any race I choose to play in Blood Bowl. Andre Johnson taking one for the team there. Also, the other Storm Vermin being out is the other tackler, so Rel's only got 1 on the field to deal with this Legion of Dodge. Alright, so no obvious path forward for the Wood-Ups here, so Stan Jones probably going to take the ball closer to midfield and drag this out as long as he needs to. I thought for sure he would burn a reroll there. You've got 5, but Blitz on Sewu doesn't amount to much. What are we doing here? Are we going to swing around, tag these guys, throw a 2-die, and then bring everybody forward and try to get this over with? That doesn't help. I mean, sure, you could still dodge through there with your dodge players, but yeah, Baz deciding to slow play it. Which is fine. We talked about earlier how Rel doesn't really have any sacking type gutter runners, which works when you have a low TV and can get a wizard almost every game. Not that his wizards have been good this season, apparently, and certainly hasn't this game at least. But you have a strength 4 tackle, agility 5 storm vermin, and his backup is a strength 4 tackle storm vermin as well. So maybe you don't need the prototypical wrestle horn strip ball kind of gutter runner. But it would be nice to have right about now. Somebody in the crowd asking for a stomp, and I'm not sure who or what they'd be wanting. I mean, the stomp emote implies a foul. I suppose it's not necessarily what they're asking for. But if we get a 3-die block here and we get a removal, or even a stun, which we don't, we could foul Johnson, and then technically the other Johnson, David, up top is not in scoring range, so that would cover our bases, but... That's interesting. Is he just marking a player who doesn't have dodge? Or is he going for it with something that I'm not seeing? Ball carrier strength 4 and a blodger. We're all just throwing some blocks. It's amazing how these like 0 SPP players are just throwing blocks in the biggest game of their life and not failing. This feels like one of those game after reports where you look at the dice and how they're skewed, and it's going to be incredibly skewed towards POWs and both downs. Like, there's not going to be like a smidge of skulls rolled between either team. It's been a very fortunate game, I guess, just cleanly played. Rails searching for a POW there, couldn't get it. So Johnson stays on his feet. I mean, he's got 8 rerolls. I was about to say he can't take them with him, but in theory you could, because if this somehow no one scored, you can take those rerolls and apply them to your coin toss roll after the overtime. Alright, there's somebody who actually failed to move. It looks like this one's gonna be over soon. Oh, Greg Yalms is down here at the bottom, and he's not quite within range to deal with Stan Jones and the boys. Unfortunately for Baz, Stan is still 2 squares away, so he's gonna have to GFI twice if he wants to end this next turn. But we get a blitz here by Johnson. Push this guy down, come out in front to screen off our screen almost. We got another dodger here. Yeah, I mean, this is like a headlock. This is vice grip territory. Even if Rel does somehow manage to get a bunch of forces up here and like double stack and make some sort of respectable defense, I mean, Stan Jones It's not only agility 5 and has leap and dodge. Like, he doesn't have to score next turn. He could, go to some vacated area in the middle and just plot for next turn. Alright, so if we're row, what are our options? There's no wrestle of any kind nearby. Your only decent defensive piece is stuck at the bottom. Strength 4, tackle, mighty blow, but he's only agility 3 and he's tagged up by a blodge stepper, which in hindsight would have been nice to use that roll on the blodge stepper, but couldn't have known that. Yeah, and Gark, you're absolutely right. It's not that Stan Jones has to be the one who scores. He can hand off to Joseph or David Johnson or, Nick Martin, technically. Not right now, but takes a block action there, which means Yams won't be anywhere near the play anytime soon. Still got to get out in front here, otherwise David Johnson just walks in on a 2+. I don't think I would fish for the 1 in 36. I think I'd try to get some guys out in front and hoping that your opponent fails or decides not to score next turn is not my favorite strategy, but when you're asking for a double power roll basically on Stan Jones, it's perhaps the only thing you can do. Where's old Troy Smith going? Oh, he's staying right there. Oh my god. He needs a 6 to get this. And if you add the 4 and the 2, he would get it, but that's not how Blood Bowl works. Alright. It's not that Baz is out of the woods yet. David Johnson's tied up. Joseph's tied up. Martin's tied up. Stan Jones needs 2 GFIs. If anything, we swing sure hands over like column 6, bring Stan Jones around and mark this guy and hand off to Veronica, and then start blocking a couple rats, and you score next turn and go off to the Super Bowl. No, there's no reason you need to push it this turn. You don't need to roll any dice to score. Oh, well, you could do this too. Johnson's within range on a 2+. There's Johnson, Joseph, Jones. There's a lot of J's on this team apparently, so I'm getting confused. But Jonathan Joseph, simple 2+ handoff, literally walk in without a dodge. And unless absolute catastrophe strikes, which it could have, but it doesn't, we've got our winner finally, 5-4. Which is shocking considering that it was literally 0-1 at halftime. But congratulations, Bazakstein and the Houston Treants, advancing to the Super Bowl to face Gru, which is not the first time Baz has played Gru in the Super Bowl. And yes, the Rats have lost once this season, and unfortunately for them, it was in the AFC Championship game. They did escape without any real perms, though. Mr. Myers only missed next game. He already had that minus AV. So the Gutters live for now. Storm Vermin are back. So Rel's unfortunately not going anywhere. All right. Congrats to Baz. Damn good season by Rel. He's assuming he's back for next season once we ever get around to it, and maybe we'll know more about Blood Bowl 2020. Maybe we won't. But hopefully Rel comes back with his team. He's a great coach, good guy. But we've got one more game. Baz in Houston, Gru and Green Banana. Apes and Wood Elves. Interesting indeed. Thank you, everybody. We'll catch you next time. What's up?